The most powerful way to defeat a narcissist is not by exposing them, proving them wrong, or even making them apologize. The most powerful way is by growing so much, healing so deeply, and evolving so far beyond who you were when they had power over you that they no longer matter. They become irrelevant, irrecognizable. Their games, their manipulations, their chaos, none of it touches you anymore. What if I told you you may have already made this progress, done this, and yet not realize it at all? Sometimes the signs of real success, real healing are so subtle that they become hard to detect, to recognize, which is why today we are talking about 5 signs you may have already outgrown the narcissist without even realizing it. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. Let's get started with sign number 1. You feel lighter when they are not around. One of the earliest and most powerful signs that you have outgrown the narcissist is that you no longer feel anxious, lost, or empty when they're not around. In the past, their absence may have triggered intense fear. You may have felt desperate for their attention because you were trauma bonded, their validation, or just their presence. It regulated you, even if that presence was full of tension, conflict, or manipulation. You may have mistaken that emotional intensity for love. But now things are different. When they are not around, you do not feel panic. You do not feel something is missing. You feel relief. You breathe easier. You do not feel like you're constantly performing, monitoring your every word, or waiting for the next unpredictable mood swing. The silence, which once felt deafening and lonely, has become comforting. Being alone does not feel like punishment anymore. It feels like peace. In fact, you may even start seeking solitude, not because you are shutting down or isolating yourself, but because the emotional quiet allows you to reconnect with yourself in a way that never felt possible when you were with a narcissist. The shift is subtle. It may show up as you choosing to stay home rather than engage with them, or choosing not to reply immediately when they text you. You start noticing that your nervous system feels calmer when they are not in your life. And when your peace starts to matter more than their approval, it is a clear sign you have started to grow beyond them. Number 2, you catch yourself pretending to care. What does that mean? This one may sound a bit harsh at first, but it is a very common emotional sign that you are outgrowing the narcissistic dynamic. There was likely a time when you were fully invested in everything they said and did. Their moods, their stories, their needs. They felt urgent and important to you, didn't they? You were deeply entangled in their narrative. Every small change in their behavior had the power to send you into self-doubt, anxiety, or emotional overdrive. But now you are catching yourself going through the motions. You nod when they talk, you give the polite responses, you may even say things like, I'm here for you, or I understand, because that is what you have always done. But deep down, you feel emotionally disconnected from your words, not in a numb, traumatized way, but in a grounded, self-protective way. You do not feel the same urge to fix their problems. You do not feel devastated by their silence or anger. You no longer take it personally when they try to provoke you, and you start to recognize that you are not reacting the way you used to. You have become the observer instead of the participant. That internal emotional detachment, even if you are still physically present, is a major sign of emotional growth. It means you have begun to reclaim your emotional space. You no longer feel responsible for their inner world, and you have stopped trying to earn a connection that was always conditional. Sign number 3, their presence no longer feels safe, and you do not pretend it does. There may have been a time when being around them felt exciting, comforting, even addictive. You craved their attention, felt at ease when they were being nice, which likely came in unpredictable waves. That push and pull cycle created a false sense of safety, where even the smallest sign of approval felt like oxygen after days of suffocation. But over time, Your body started speaking louder than your thoughts. You began noticing that being around them made you tense. Your shoulders tightened, your stomach felt uneasy in knots, and you could not quite relax. You couldn't breathe, even when nothing overtly bad was happening. The illusion of safety began to break down. You stopped seeing their presence as comforting and started recognizing it for what it was: pressure, manipulation, control, or emotional unpredictability. And most importantly, you stopped pretending that it was love. When someone consistently invalidates your reality, guilt trips you for having boundaries, or treats you with contempt as concern, your body remembers because it keeps a score. You may not have made any official decision to walk away, but your system begins to withdraw. You stop leaning into the connection, you start limiting your time with them. You keep conversations short, and your responses start to feel more like autopilot than actual connection. Sign number 4: you have stopped explaining yourself. When you are in a relationship with a narc, you spend a lot of time trying to be understood. You try to express your feelings clearly, you try to tell them what's going on, you give them the benefit of the doubt, you explain your intentions, clarify your tone, reword your texts, and try again, because you believe the problem was a lack of understanding. But eventually you realize they understand. They just don't care. And that realization changes everything. Why? Because you stop trying to explain why something hurt you. You know they will find a way to blame you for being too sensitive. You stop justifying why you need space, because they will accuse you of being cold or distant. You stop defending your boundaries because you already know they're going to take it personally and punish you for it later. Instead of engaging, you go quiet. Not because you are silenced, but because you have become wise. You no longer need to be understood by someone who uses your words against you. You do not need to win a debate to feel valid. You know your truth, and you do not need their permission to believe it. This kind of silence is not passive, it is intentional, it is protective. It is a sign that you have shifted out of the trauma bond and stepped into your power. The final and perhaps most telling sign is that the entire relationship, the dynamic itself, no longer appeals to you. What once felt passionate and magnetic now feels immature and exhausting. You no longer see the highs and lows as signs of love or intensity. You see them as instability. You see it as a never ending cycle of chaos that you do not want to do anything with. Even the parts you used to cling to, the sweet moments, the sweet memories, the shared laughter, the emotional intimacy that basically you created, start to feel tainted. You realize that even the nice times were part of the trap. They were used to keep you hooked, to keep you hoping, to keep you emotionally dependent. You no longer fantasize about them changing, helping them, or getting back to how it used to be, because you know how it used to be, and you finally admit that it was never healthy. This is where the biggest internal shift happens. You stop focusing on what they did wrong, and you start focusing on who you are becoming. You do not want to fight for their attention anymore. You just want peace. You want growth. You want real love, the kind that does not require you to lose yourself. When you look back at the dynamic and feel tired rather than nostalgic, that is the clearest sign of all. You have outgrown it. You have outgrown them. And you have outgrown the version of yourself that needed them. Which one of these signs do you see in yourself? Let me know in the comments. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.